Where were your earliest chambers?
A building called Chalfont Chambers, 142 Phillip Street, been pulled down now, although I think the name is still there, just on the harbour side of Martin Place in Phillip Street. And it was the, I suppose, certainly I regard it as the best of the chambers. Barwick was there, and Alan Taylor, and most of the top lawyers were there, and particularly because the clerk on that floor that I was on, a man called Freddie de Saxe, and I befriended Freddie when I was an associate in the Supreme Court, and Freddie got me onto his floor, found a room for me there, and so it was a highly regarded set of chambers, Chalfont.
Did you share chambers with anyone in those early days?
Yes, a man called Philip Allen. He generously let me share his room. He had a room on the 4th floor of Chalfont. Took me in, I was able to have a desk there and some books. And we remained firm friends all through, and I had the great satisfaction in the fullness of time when I was Chief Justice in appointing him as the Chief Judge of the Family Division. But he was a lovely man, a very nice man.
Who did you read with?
Bruce McFarlane, father of the present, Bob McFarlane.
Was Bruce influential for you in any way in terms of his approach to his work, his advocacy style?
Oh, yes, very much so. He was a prodigious worker. Every Saturday morning we'd have to line up there in Bruce's chambers, myself and the other, you'd have 2 or 3 readers stretching back before you dropped off the end of the perch and noting up law books and talking about cases. At this stage he was an outstanding Sydney junior in the High Court. He used to appear a great deal with Barwick in the communist cases, and he had a very significant junior practice in the High Court.
You mentioned before Sir Garfield Barwick. He was a King's Counsel at that time when you first came to the bar. He wasn't yet to go on to the High Court. Did you have much to do with Sir Garfield Barwick?
Yes, I used to appear with him quite a lot, in particular in maritime cases, because that was my field. When I came out of the Navy, I had a corner on the shipping work, and a number of ones that went through to the High Court. I got my solicitor to entice Barwick into taking a leading brief. And so I did appear with him quite a lot in maritime cases.
What was it like working with him?
Oh, it was a fabulous experience. A rather frightening experience for a junior, because in those days the High Court would sit up at Darlinghurst in what is now the Central Criminal Court. Well, it was the Central Criminal Court then, but one wing of it was the High Court. And they'd sit up there, and Barwick would always walk up to the High, walk through Hyde Park and so on, and he'd just chat in general on his way up. He didn't, as a sort of an anxious, eager young junior, I used to turn up, as I think other juniors, if his juniors were the same, turn up in his chambers at 8:30 in the morning, whatever, and he'd say, well, come in about 8:30 and we'll go up to court together. He'd chat about English silver and furniture and life in general. You say, yes, but Carl, look, we've got this point and so on. We'll be all right, don't worry. And then we'd get up to the High Court and he'd robe in the robing room, still going on with what I thought was inconsequential chatter, I was anxious to, whether we were appellate or defendant or respondent. But and he'd get into court about 5 minutes before the judges were due to come on. He was never late. He was always there 5 minutes early, and he'd sit down at the bar table, and he'd pull the bit of blotting paper over towards him, and he'd take out his pen, and he'd just write a few notes on this blotting paper. And this is even in cases where he was appearing for the appellant. And those were his notes of the argument. He didn't come with everything all cut and dried, and he absolutely mastered the brief the night before. He wasn't in his chambers a late worker but he obviously was at home, and he had a library at his home at Beecroft, and he obviously did a lot of work at home, enormous, as any successful barrister does, but he didn't work his juniors in that sort of way as some folks did.
It sounds to me as though he was a very fluid thinker. He was capable of ultimately being the consummate performer on his feet.
Yeah.
He didn't need, as you said, to spend endless hours swatting. He knew the essence of what he wanted to pursue.
Exactly. That was his skill as an advocate, was to get the bench involved. Say a few provocative things, then get them responding to him, and then once they were responding, he then had them, because he had a brilliant, scintillating intellect. It could move, dodge about, and he could almost get control of the dialogue as soon as they'd start the dialogue with him. And his part of his skill was to entice the bench into getting involved in a dialogue. But he had all the principles and the facts of the cases there at his fingertips, and it was wonderfully inspiring to hear. And Sir Owen Dixon, who was a great case fiend, and to hear the two of them sparring at times about early cases that they'd been involved in, just as during the course of an argument in the full High Court.
Did any of Sir Garfield's approach to advocacy rub off on you, do you think?
Oh yes, a lot. And on those who read with me, I passed, master your case at night. Get on top of it, cross-examination, don't come with everything prepared, just master the facts, and then dialogue with the witness, and if there are weaknesses in his or her evidence, you can bring those out. That way, if you get everything prepared, you're locking yourself in a way. So I picked up that philosophy from him to get total mastery of the facts or the law or whatever the case was before you got to your feet in court.
Where did you learn, though, your penchant, if you like, for being very gentle when you cross-examine people? I don't imagine that came from Sir Garfield Barwick. I know he was famously combative, whereas you were quite well known, always well known, for being very gentle and yet very forensic when you cross-examine people.
Well, I just found that was the best way to get what I wanted. If I can get people to like me, well, then I had more chance of getting them to agree with me.
Sugar catches more flies than vinegar.
Exactly. Well, I'd never heard that. But that's right. That was my approach always. I didn't think it was helpful to get a fight going with the witness or with the whatever, or with the bench for that matter. I much preferred to work on a basis of goodwill, and if you could talk, in effect, talk with a witness in the box, even a hostile witness, get to talk with you, to dialogue with you about things that they're interested in. You can get a much more, I suppose, acceptable approach, both judges and with witnesses.